Hi, Anita, Narayan here, and welcome to this short video called In the Balance. And I just want to take a few moments to comment on a couple of things the Dalai Lama said recently. For those of you who don't know, the Dalai Lama is one of the world's renowned spiritual leaders, and he said two things. Firstly, the Western woman will save the world, and secondly, that leadership starts with the individual, then families and communities. So what did he mean by all this? What has that got to do with women, and how can they play their leadership part in this? Well, first of all, what I don't think he meant is that men have messed up and that somehow women are going to come to the fore and stage this big coup and save the world. But what I do think he was referring to is the much needed restoration between the masculine and feminine energy that plays out in the way we live our lives, both personally and professionally. So how can women play their part in that? And I think there are two areas I want to address that they need to pay very close attention to, because if they don't, then that restoration will very much be in the balance. And the first area is looking after themselves, nurturing themselves. I addressed this on a previous video. Women traditionally are very bad at looking after themselves on the whole, because they're traditional roles have been very nurturing roles, particularly if they've had children, and part of the nurturing mix is others first. Now, if they're not careful, if they add to that going into business, they're very likely to take that self-sacrificing attitude into their business, and if they do so, given that business is yet another thing to multitask on top of their other roles, they are going to burn out, and then they're going to fail to have the energy to help in this restoration of balance I mentioned. And the second area I think they need to pay attention to is how they do business, the manner in which they do business. Because if I was to put a hormonal profile on the way that business is traditionally done, it is certainly very adrenaline based. If you think about it, going back to prehistoric times, man used to go out, hunt food. It was a survival of the fittest, and they brought the food home to provide for their family. And in many ways that kind of stance has permeated business, and the way that you know and hear this sort of adrenaline profile is in phrases like, divide and conquer, dominate the competition, competitive edge, survival of the fittest in business. And you hear those phrases quite regularly, and there certainly is still very much a hunter mentality in the way that business sometimes is done. And what needs to happen is a restoration there. We need to see more, not just initiating relationships in business, but sustaining and developing relationships, something that isn't well done in business. And also real establishing of values and making that visible in the way we conduct our business. And those qualities are very much part of what I would call the oxytocin profile. Well, let me tell you a bit about that. I used to work in perinatal psychiatry looking after mums who had severe postnatal illness, and because of that had trouble bonding with their babies, so we would help them in the bonding process. Now, unless mums are unwell, the bonding process is a very natural process for them. But did you know that the hormone behind bonding is oxytocin? So, oxytocin is the bonding hormone, and what women, applying that to the business arena, women are more naturally gravitated to this thing of sustaining, developing relationships, and really creating value and sustaining value and making that visible. That's something that is more towards the oxytocin model. But what's very important for women to do is to make sure in business that they are very bonded to life purpose, their passion, their vision when it comes to their business, because again, those qualities are so important to business growth, to sustaining and creating and delivering value in business. And it's important for women to be bonded in that way rather than to be bonding out of necessity, which is what I see happen in women who aren't well when they bond with their babies. It's kind of, it's a very forced process. So those are two areas that women need to really tend to if they are to take a leadership role in helping to restore this balance that I spoke about earlier, both personally and professionally. So I hope you enjoyed those comments, and until the next time, you make the most of your life and have a wonderful day.